Welcome to the UFO Woman Show. I'm your host, Melisa Kennedy. Well, I have a question. What is the true power of our minds? And by mind, I mean that thing that interprets, gathers information, perceives the world around us, and then that becomes our reality. And we've talked about that on the show. It's much like that of a computer. When we buy a computer, a brand new one, we turn it on, and the operating system does its thing. But if there are no programs downloaded onto that computer, it's really not very useful, is it? Well, let's relate that to a child's brain and how we learn. When we are 5 to 7 years old, we start to develop our brains, and we start to realize how we should feel, how we should think, and how we should understand the world around us. And this continues on into our teenage and even young adult life. But what if that child is forced to cover up and shut up? What kind of reality is that child going to perceive? What is the world that that child is going to understand? And then the flip side of that is, if that child is exposed to freedom and exposed to a vast world of knowledge, and they decide that they are going to be able to look up to the stars, look up to the planets, and to the universe, then what type of mind will that child develop? Well, as a former school teacher, I can tell you that there are many modes of learning styles. There's a lot of different ways that we learn as children. We learn visually. We learn through hands-on or physical touch. We learn through music. We learn through verbal, and so on. Well, there's one part that we're never actually taught, and that is how our minds can learn telepathically, intuitively, and then also through our psychic ability. Unfortunately, those things are never taught to us as children, and so therefore oftentimes we never develop those things. And that's the form of communication that much of our intergalactic friends and family actually use to learn. So we're going to open it up here to Kevin and Edgar, and we're going to talk about how we use the power of our mind to create the reality that we have. And today the reality is a little different than what the reality that the three of us grew up in. And the power that we really have, and we've talked a lot about this in the show. It's an ongoing conversation, and I think it's really important to continue to address it. And I think that the mind is so much more powerful than we give it credit for. You know, we're always taught that we're individuals. You know, we are just, you know, I'm Melisa, and you're Edgar, and you're Kevin, and we don't really think of ourselves as a collective mind. But I'm starting to see where that's probably really important, and how much of the world today is kind of adapting this hive mind mentality, almost like a conformity, if you will. You know, they're conforming to mindsets. Whereas if we look at things as a universal approach, then it's not what I believe, what I think, what I want. It becomes more of the competition is taken away. The negativity is taken away, because now we're just kind of like existing together. So let's talk about this. What are your thoughts? I mean, you've heard me talk a lot about being a teacher. You guys know how I feel about that. You know how I feel about children. You know my stance on the face masks and the pandemic or plandemic. And I think we're all in agreement there, right, Kevin?
No,
I mean,
without yes.
And we're all in agreement. So I just feel like we're blessed to have a show like this to talk about it openly and freely, uncensored, unfiltered. which is great. Which reminds me, please share if you like what we talk about and you want more uncensored media, because there isn't really much out there anymore. If you enjoy uncensored TV shows, please share and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're also on YouTube. Like it and share it with your friends, because that's the only way we're going to get the message out, and it's the way we're going to be able to continue what we do. So that's my little commercial for the day. But, we're like computers. We're being programmed. We're being programmed to think a certain way, act a certain way, feel a certain way, and that involves UFOs, extraterrestrials, the pandemic. I mean, it involves everything across the board. This is the UFO Woman show, and yes, we do talk a lot about intergalactic stuff, but I think it's also important to talk about our minds as humans. And I know you got a download this week. Kevin and his downloads. He's always getting information for this show, which I'm so grateful for. But let's talk about it, Kevin. I'm going to open it up to you and let you take it away, because I know that your download is very relevant to what we're talking about.
It is. They always seem to give me these downloads when you choose a topic. Or I get a download during the week or whatever, and you already decided we're going to talk about that topic. So I'm sure they're listening in, and they give me the information so to expand our knowledge, really. But I agree with what you're saying again, and I always do, Melisa. That's why you keep inviting me back, I think, because I agree with you.
Well, either that or I like you. I'm not sure. You're a good friend. I like having good friends around me. So.
But I do agree with you in relation to developing the brain itself. We're not taught about anything at school about it, other than maybe basic biology and things. But I was guided by my ET guides, and because of that I developed the telepathic communication, I developed the psychic communication, the psychic abilities. I can speak to my dead relatives if I want to speak to my dead relatives, because it's only the physical that's died. And because we're denied all this information, and I would have been if I hadn't had two specific guides, Orton D, schooling me. Outside of school, and because I didn't speak to anybody about it as a child, nobody told me I couldn't do it. Nobody told me we don't have these abilities. Well, I have them because they taught me, and I've met many now since I've been speaking out about my abilities. There are a lot of people that have these abilities, and a lot of them have got their own ET guides as well. So right. The ETs are assisting us in developing our brains and things. So we within our current educational system, that we're allowed to develop to a certain level where we can read, multiply, subtract, a couple of other simple things, and then some go on to do degrees and higher education. But we are still limited in the function of the brain and what we're taught. I've been watching recently on my Facebook some schools in England where they're teaching children to see blindfolded, and it's absolutely fascinating.
Oh, wow.
And the children soon learn. They put the blindfolds on. They'll give them objects or pictures and ask them to point to the particular picture. And they even have now like a little mini Olympics running around obstacles. And once the kids have picked it up, they're just amazing. But they're using a section of the brain that we're not taught to use. I've been taught to
well,
use
they're tapping into intuitive abilities, and that's fascinating. As a teacher, one of the things that I often would do is create these like learning stations that we called them. And I would have hands-on manipulatives that the children could use, especially for math. Like I really made sure that my kids had something they could touch and feel and manipulate to solve the math problems. So that's a little bit like what you're talking about here, Kevin. It's training the brain, rewiring the brain, if you will, to program itself to think outside of the visual. And that's tapping into the psychic part, the intuitive part. We all have this ability, guys, okay? I'm psychic medium. Kevin's got psychic abilities as well, and so does Edgar. We all three have it. But all of you out there have it as well. You just maybe haven't tapped into it yet or learned how to. And so that does create a whole nother, modality to use in our everyday lives, and it's a good thing.
I think the other thing we should point out, really, as you've just said, we all have these abilities, but we don't talk about them.
Right.
Because if you say your mother's just died, and then you feel she's sat next to you in the house in her presence, and many people feel this, well, they are sat there. That conscious energy is there. They're communicating.
But it's taboo if you say it.
It's taboo. We're not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that on our show we make it not taboo, and now it's like the cool thing to do. Because, let's make it cool. Hashtag cool. But it's a shame that it has had a label of being taboo, because it's really quite remarkable, isn't it, Edgar?
It's very remarkable. What we have in our minds, and we call it minds, but it's actually our inner energy that is perpetual. You can neither destroy nor create energy. We are energy. This is a biomechanical suit, and our brains is nothing more than that of a supercomputer. We have two hemispheres. We have the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere in our minds, our brains. It has been shown in science where certain people with certain conditions, they have to go in and literally separate the two hemispheres to stop the seizures. But it's our energy that keeps everything running. And we are all part of the cosmos. We are the cosmos. We create what we see, who we are, what is around us. And once we learn to control our own selves deep within, the paradigm will shift. And this is where we're at in the fork in the road in society today, with all these higher 1% controlling the mass populations of the entire globe. They already know this. And they don't want us to learn this or develop it. There are those of us who have been contacted, we have been shown, and we are told to get the truth out and to teach others to bring about a peaceful world instead of having this chaotic, destructive world.
Exactly. Very well said,
Yeah,
Edgar.
well said, Edgar.
Yeah, very well said. Which brings me to a little game, actually, of Simon Says. You guys up for it?
Yeah.
Simon says, raise your left hand. Simon says, raise your right hand. Simon says, put a face mask on. Take it off. We just didn't follow the directions, did we? I didn't say Simon says, take your face mask off.
I've already programmed.
We just broke the program, right? The programming. Yeah, exactly. That's what we have to do. We don't need to wait for Simon Says to do something. I hope that makes a lot of sense to all of you out there, because Simon Says doesn't have to occur for us to stand up for ourselves.
Well, that goes in with the download that I had this week.
Does it? Okay.
The download. I was thinking about, I've got lots of friends from different socio-economic backgrounds, and I've got friends that believe the narrative straight down the line, everything that the government say, and then I've got those that are totally the opposite, who believe everything is a lie that the government says and everything is a hoax. And then we've got those that wear the masks all the time and those that don't wear the masks all the time. I'm sure the truth is somewhere in the middle there. But my question, my own thought was, why is this? Why my friends are my friends? You know, their views and values are theirs. I'm quite happy to accept them. But why are they so different? Why are they so diverse? And I got this download. Because of the brain, how the brain functions. And it said, just what Edgar said, there are two hemispheres. And the hemispheres cover different areas of how we think and operate. And with people that have the higher cognitive abilities, the hemispheres are joined together by the neurons. Those that aren't will be left brain thinkers or right brain thinkers. So I didn't know anything about this, because as I'm not a scientist, as I keep saying every week, so I Googled it to see what information there was after I got the download. And I'll just read a sentence here. It was quite interesting. It said that the brain has a right half and a left half, known as the right and left hemisphere. The two hemispheres are connected by a thick bundle of nerve fibers. Each hemisphere is made up of 6 areas. The brain controls the movement, processes sensory information, conscious and unconscious actions, which is what we said with Simon Says, and feelings are produced here. It is also responsible for speech, hearing, intelligence and memory. Well, that really just confirms the information that I was given. And I say, I don't study these things, but we have Google now. So
Yes,
I'm
we
a
do.
great advocate of Google. It took me a long while to get used to learning to deal with it, but I use it all the time now. It's great.
Oh, I know. It's kind of like, what would you do without Google?
At all.
I know. It
But
is
it's
good.
an opportunity, it's a platform to
Yeah.
teach ourselves.
It
We
is.
don't need the school now. We can teach our own curriculum.
Oh, gosh. Well, I'm glad I got out of teaching when I did then,
Well.
Kevin, because apparently I'd be out of a job. Well, yeah, you are right. And I think that the conformity is one of the things that's the biggest issue right now. People are almost peer pressured into thinking or believing that UFOs aren't real. Believing or thinking that extraterrestrials is just a Hollywood thing, believing or thinking that the pandemic is as big as it is, believing or thinking that face masks are actually going to protect you. And here's a question I have for everybody, our audience as well as my two friends here. If face masks worked, then why do we have to stand 6 feet apart? If 6 feet apart works, then why do we need the face masks? And if a vaccine would work, then why do you have to sign a liability clause? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. I mean, to me, it's kind of common sense, but I like to think of the flu. You know, the flu vaccine's been around for, gosh, I don't even know, 40, 50 years, however long it's been around. And yet we still have the flu, and yet people still die from the flu. So what's the point of having a vaccine? And actually, if you guys remember back in like January, February, that was the middle of flu season. Where did the flu season go? It's like all of a sudden the flu became the COVID, which is kind of odd.
Well, there were some
You
new
know?
figures published this week by the CDC.
Yes.
I don't know whether you've seen them or not.
Oh, gosh. Well, it changes so often.
It
I
does.
mean, it changes, I think, by the day, which Facebook even took one of my posts down, which was a post from the CDC
Really?
saying that they was not whatever factual.
doesn't
The fact
go-
checkers out there,
Yeah.
the little mafia that's out there fact checking everything, which I don't think is accurate, by the way. But
It's
anyway. So tell me, okay, so what's the latest CDC numbers? Because it changes all the time.
And I only know this because yesterday my wife she goes onto the CDC website and monitors it and follows it. And so does my brother. I don't have time to do things like that. But so she pointed it out to me yesterday. She said, have you seen this on the website? I said, no. So we had a look at it. And the new figures for total deaths in the US, 2,920.
What?
The rest died of other diseases such as heart disease, cancer, renal failure, and other major diseases. They did have the virus, but the other diseases were the cause of death. So they've recalculated the figures to this 9,210 or 20, whatever it is, and they've put a graph on there to show it all. And listed it, itemized it all. Now, I've spoken to to a couple of friends. Those that believe the original figures of staying with those figures.
Yeah, the millions and millions
Millions and millions. And my
figure.
friends who are able to change their mind, are open-minded. Some say, oh, well, I knew all along. And then there's others that said that well, we knew this, didn't we? That the figures were being orchestrated to support the narrative. So just go on the website. Go on. It's there. It's not
there.
like I'm making it up. It's not like false news or fake news. It's real.
It
go
is
and check
real.
it, and then make your own decision why they've done that, because it's absolutely... And my brother sent me a thing this morning before I drove over here to Tampa, and he giving me all the same information, but with more information.
Oh my
gosh!
gosh.
Because he's got time, he sits on his computer, and he's intelligent, he deciphers all the information, categorizes it, and then puts it out there. So,
wow.
Just get out there.
Okay, so with those numbers, I mean, Kevin, we have a better shot of seeing a UFO.
Well, yes.
I mean, I'm just saying, if you want to believe the numbers, I mean, we have a better chance of being struck by lightning, probably. I don't know. Those numbers are so ridiculously low that I haven't been changing my life, to be really honest with you. My lifestyle is the same as it always has been for the last 7 months. I don't conform to the face mask wearing and all that kind of stuff. I still go and see my friends and give them hugs and give them kisses. And which, speaking of which, did you guys see on social media that you're not allowed, like they don't really think you should kiss, and that you should wear a face mask while having sex? Yes, I just said that on the air. I don't know. To me, there's still bodily fluids happening, so why are we wearing a face mask?
Did you fact
I'm
check
just saying.
that?
Did I fact check that?
I saw that.
It was a Canadian doctor.
I saw that. Yeah. But we can't believe,
you can't
believe
make this
anything
up.
we see, because
Oh, my
a doctor
gosh.
wouldn't say that, because you can transfer a virus how do you think AIDS virus gets transferred?
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
It's just
It's
any
ridiculous.
virus.
It's just so ridiculous. It's comical, actually,
It
how
is, it
ridiculous this is
Was
getting.
it a comedy show you were watching, do you think?
It wasn't. It was some article. I don't know.
I saw
mean,
the article, I did.
Well, it's like the little green men are going to be running around here soon. I mean, we might as well just throw every hysterical idea out there. I mean, next thing you know, they're going to say aliens carry COVID-19 with them, and we're got to be away from the aliens. I mean, it just gets ridiculous, and it's all about the programming. It all comes back to our minds being programmed to think a certain way, to believe a certain way, and to act a certain way. And this hive mentality of, if anybody should dare, go against the grain, then you're crazy. You're a conspiracy theorist. You know what? I've been labeled that. In fact, I got into an argument with some woman on Facebook this week because she was such a face mask supporter, and I'm not. She resorted to some not so nice commentary to me. I, of course, respond very politely because I'm not in your face about that kind of thing. I think, well, you're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to mine. I'm going to post what I want. It's my feed. It's my story. I'm going to say what I want. But it's like we've got this dividing characteristic in our brain that, if you don't agree with me, then I'm going to attack you. If you believe in extraterrestrials and the media says they don't exist, or the government says they don't exist, then you're crazy. And then what we find out years later is, oh, they were right. How many times has that happened now? I mean, let's think of, in our culture, in our society over the last, I don't know, say 50 years, when something maybe 40 or 50 years ago was conceived as crazy conspiracy theory, and now all of a sudden they come out and they're like, oh, well, they actually were right. I mean, that's what the government's done. That's what the Pentagon has done with the admittance of UFOs existing. Well, that's not of this world. That always cracks me up. So if it's not of this world, then it has to be extraterrestrial. I mean, by definition, if it's not of this world, then it's extraterrestrial. Otherwise, how did it get here? We don't have Americans living on the moon, as far as I know, although maybe we do, who knows. But, I mean, you have to start to wonder, just because it's different than what they're programming us to believe, doesn't mean that it isn't real. It's not the truth. So anyway, that's my little 2 cents worth. But Edgar, chime in here. I know you got a lot to say. You're chopping at the bit over there. So go ahead. Go for it, Edgar.
Well, our spirit, our energy, has been programmed in this three-dimensional world, when the universe is not three-dimensional, it's multi-dimensional, multi-parallels. As I stated in the book and have said in previous shows, we have 144 parallels and only 12 dimensions. So as we raise our vibrational levels up within our own spirit in this three-dimensional world, less and less things will affect us. And we can maintain our health, and we can reprogram, and this has been validated by Dr. Joe Dispenza's research, that we can reprogram our own DNA just by thought. But you have to be able to bring your body, mind, and spirit to that pure thought consciousness. And then nothing exists. The walls doesn't exist. Atoms really don't exist. We are pure electromagnetic energy. And this is what the 5G systems is going to try to suppress in all of us, is our innate ability to be able to consciously leave our bodies and this existence and escape this matrix that we are all perceiving that we exist in.
Now that's cool. Well, it's kind of like, I like to think of it as we are in a piece of meat suit, right? I mean, that's kind of what it is. I mean, we have this energy and we're in this meat suit that is a temporary thing, but our energy, our consciousness still goes on after we die. And that's really important, because to me that kind of, it makes it less scary. Let's put it that way. And then it also kind of makes you think that all of these things that's happening in the world right now, honestly, on a big universal grand scale, does any of this matter?
It's a test.
Really? It's a test to see how far they can push us. How far can they control us? It's the Simon Says game all over again. As long as you wait for Simon to say, you're going to be controlled.
But, well, not only is it a test, but it's a test to see if we can increase our abilities through meditation, through doing Reiki, using crystals, vibrational frequencies that are pure and not with other waveforms in them. They have to be pure waveform energy. The intergalactics have known this. This is how they're able to use ESP, telekinesis, and telepathy in their ships, where they can bring all their collective energy thought together, and they can go across great expanses of space, and they could probably be 8,000 light years across the universe in a matter of, say, 2 hours at the speed of thought. It's faster than light.
Right. Well, and here's the thing. I think as a human race, we are supposed to be in the age of information right now, correct? However, the information is being withheld. We are not getting all the information.
That's right.
So we're technically advanced, but spiritually, oh my gosh, we're still back in the dark ages, because we're still being programmed to believe, the religions, the cults, the whatever you want to call it, the man-made stuff. We're still being programmed into that matrix hive to believe all of these, well, things.
That's why all the censorship is coming in now.
Absolutely.
I see just recently Facebook are altering their whole terms and conditions on October the 1st.
October 1st, Facebook's going to completely change,
they'll
right?
be able to change whatever they want to change with you. I've already seen changes anyway within my posts.
Oh, me too.
And how they're operating it. But they're controlled by the people who want to control the planet.
Exactly.
Control the information.
Right.
Control the propaganda. And but I do agree with what Edgar said earlier about being able to heal yourself. My ETs taught me that we are all energy, and thought is energy, is conscious energy. And if we use thought and conscious energy, we can heal ourselves. I know there's an experiment that some of the universities did over here with some of the universities in the UK, and they put a glass of water on a table in a laboratory, and then all the students in America thought about heating that temperature up of the water 3,000 miles away, and the temperature of the water heated up by 1 or 2 degrees. And it's a repeatable experiment, a simple experiment, but it shows the power of thought. If you do that to your own body, which is what, 80%, 90% water, I don't know exactly, but if you're able to make the water in your body healthy, and according to Dr. Emoto, water has emotion, it has memory, it has healing power.
Right.
So if you are able to communicate with your own water, as it were, within your own cells, then you can keep yourself healthy. But you need to have an understanding of it, not from a scientific point of view, I don't think, but from a spiritual point of view, from an energy, from a conscious energy point of view. I know I heal myself. If for some reason I'm unable to heal myself, then I will go to a conventional doctor.
But you try to heal yourself first.
I try to heal myself
That's
first.
always your first
Yes.
attempt.
That and different
So that's
foods.
important.
Yeah, that's important.
Right.
And then there are people that do the Reiki and things
Right.
like that. I've never tried that from healing myself with other people, but I am aware it is a valid healing process.
Oh, it absolutely
But
is.
they do what Edgar
right.
says. They tap into conscious energy.
Absolutely.
And use the energy as a conduit for heal. And I have been told
Well, that's what the ETs do, right?
That's what the ETs do.
ETs do it, and so does nature.
And nature too, right?
And we need to go back and tap into nature, because as the capitalists are destroying this planet for greed, nature's crying out. And every time we tear down the forest and do other things to planet Earth, we're hurting ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, the plants have consciousness. We've talked about that on the show before in previous episodes. Again, it's going back to being a collective consciousness. Every time we tear down a forest or whatever, the person or people that are doing it, they're probably thinking, oh, it's just a few trees here and there, no big deal. But when you start doing that over and over and over, and it becomes almost a virus in and of itself, and that is a virus of greed, then we're chipping away, we're losing our consciousness little bit by little bit by little bit, and we just become so tunnel visioned.
And what would happen if we all learned how to heal ourselves?
Yes,
Then,
and our planet.
And our planet,
right.
Yes, which we can do. What would happen to the billion dollar industry of the pharmaceuticals?
Oh,
it would
pharmaceuticals
disappear.
would be, they would disappear
I
and
wonder
they would
if
go
they
bankrupt.
have some control over what we think and what we do and what we're taught.
Yeah, I don't take any medicines. I won't. I will not do it. I'm a Reiki practitioner. I have always believed in natural healing, essential oils, herbs, natural supplements, things like that. I'm like you, Kevin. I always go there
I don't
first.
take any drugs, but I did have a new hip about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to operate on myself and have a new hip. So
Well, that might be an
I had to go
exception.
down the conventional route.
Yeah,
But
well, there'll be exceptions, but I mean, you're
the doctor
every day.
I went was absolutely an expert in his field, and I've had no issues with it. But all the other minor stuff, and I know people that have actually had cancer and cured themselves.
Yes.
Well,
I mean, it's just
but
tremendous.
isn't that just energy? See, I think
It's
about this
energy.
stuff, you guys. When we get sick or we have an injury, it really just means that the energy in that area has been depleted. In other words, the vibration just went lower. You follow what I'm saying? So when we pass over, when this meat suit goes away, really all that's happening is the meat suit gets diseased, its vibration lowers, and then our spirit or our consciousness, our energy goes on, because it doesn't die, it still goes on. And to me, that's just such a, well, it's a beautiful thing when you stop and think about it, because that means not only our ancestors, but our intergalactic friends, that they're all connected because they never actually go away. They
That's
just
right.
transform to another form of energy. And so when you think about like our, if you cut your finger or you have cancer, whatever the ailment is, it's just that the energy in that area is low. And we have to fix it.
And we have to rebalance it. That's
Have to
what
rebalance.
Reiki does. It rebalances all the energies within the body.
Right.
Everything has an electromagnetic field. And the biggest electromagnetic field in a human being is our hearts. It radiates out well beyond 6 feet. And now that they're causing this 6 feet of distancing and stuff, now we no longer are a conscious being because we need affection. We need that love. And if we're being forced away from it, there is nothing left. And this is how they're programming the younger generation and they're going to infect them with nanotechnology and turn them into artificial intelligence.
Right, and that goes right back to the beginning of the show when I was talking about how we are programming our children to cover up and shut up, because that's exactly what's happening. These children are being separated and isolated in schools, in the cafeteria, in the classrooms. They are having boxes put around them. They are being forced to sit apart, not talk, not socialize. So what kind of generation are we going to have? It's not going to be one of love and social ability, I don't think.
Well, we're not even going to learn the social skills. We
How are
learn
you
the
gonna
social
learn?
skills as children by interacting. You find out what you can do and what you can't do.
Right.
And so you learn, and then sometimes if you really step out of line, you get chastised by the teachers or whatever. But without that social grouping, we won't learn the social skills. So that will separate us even further. So we won't care about one another. We won't care about the
Right.
planet.
No, we're not. We're going to be completely disconnected. And it's interesting how our energy does expand 6 feet. What are we being told? Stand 6 feet apart. If our energy can't interact with others, then we don't connect. If we don't connect, then we're easy to be taken over. When we're taken over, we become programs. We're just little suits with programs in our minds, and we're no longer free-thinking, human-loving people. We are just robots. And that's what I unfortunately see happening. And it actually breaks my heart. When I go out to restaurants and I see these little girls and boys covered up and shut up, it breaks my heart. It really, really does. As a mother and as a teacher, I can honestly say in 48 years, I've never been so terrified of what's happening in the world than right now. And what I would like to see happen is that these children are taught to be free thinkers. They are taught to look up. They are taught to reach for the stars. They are taught about the universe. They are taught about such a more broad reality than to just be told to cover themselves up and have no emotion, no smiles. You know, I'm going to give a shout out to my mom right now. She had a wonderful thing last night. She told me on the phone. She said, let's wear smiles, not masks. And that's exactly true. So for all the women that are out there watching right now, the moms, the wives, the teachers, listen to what I'm trying to say. Let's stand up and let's be women against masks. Hashtag women against masks. I'm going to start that. As the UFO woman, I would like to start that movement that we stand up for our children and for women to not cover our beautiful faces up anymore. Let's not cover that up. Let's be proud of who we are. Let's reach out for the stars and let's start thinking on an intergalactic universal scale. So that's That's going to be my little movement. The UFO Woman. Here we go. We're gonna start that, and I think that you guys, Edgar, you've got such a beautiful scientific mind, and Kevin, you've just got a beautiful mind of all different kinds.
You have to consider that as a baby, you learn facial recognition.
You did. Yes.
And the first time you recognize your mother, you smile.
Right.
So if your mother's got a mask on, then you won't recognize her.
No.
So you're then not developing that part of the brain.
The bond.
Yeah, the bond that's there. And, maybe the cognitive abilities by seeing things.
Right.
We react to what we see. So it's important that we see our faces. They're all different, but we identify one another. And I believe that the brain develops its identification skills from an early childhood by first facial recognition.
Absolutely. That's a great thing to say. And that even goes on to the animal kingdom. What happens when a little bird or a little puppy is born, they're with their mother, their parents, and they learn the facial recognition and things like that. And when we're all covered up, you're not even going to see that. Now, I'm curious, do intergalactics do that, you think?
I know ducks.
I don't know, I just thought of that.
I know that ducks do.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, ducks the imprint.
The first thing they see,
Yeah.
they follow.
Whatever it is.
Mother. Yeah, whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah.
I've seen an experiment done where they did it with I think it was a bit
Fly
cruel.
Away Home did that.
It was cruel, really.
Wasn't there a cartoon about that?
I don't know, there might have been, yeah. But
That too.
but
yeah, there was.
So they're programmed initially.
Yeah.
They come out of the egg and they look, a mother duck. That must be my mother. And then they
That's
follow
so
the
cute,
duck.
though. But
If
it's
they
so
see something
sweet.
else,
Yeah.
they'll follow that. So
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is. I just thought I'd throw that in there.
That's it. But I am starting to wonder. What, Kevin, you've got so much experience with ETs, and they've been such an integral part of your life. Have you ever learned that maybe extraterrestrials, I know some of them have families, I know some of them have children. I wonder if they do the same kind of thing.
They do. They do the same thing with facial recognition. We might think they all look the same.
Yeah, well,
okay.
we
But
do
they don't.
stereotype them, right?
But they also, because they're able to communicate telepathically, it's not just communication for words, it's the emotions that come across as well.
Right.
So you've still got the facial recognition, because they're slightly different, and some will smile with a little smile,
Yeah.
some a little bit bigger, or the corner of their eyes will move. But together in that telepathic communication, you've got the obviously the visual, because I can see them anyway, not using my eyes.
Right.
And then, as the children are being taught now in the UK, and then
Which is kind of cool.
it is, isn't it? And
It
that's
is.
all out there. You can check it. You can research
Yeah.
it. It's all there.
Yeah.
And then there's the telepathic communication, and when that's in communication with emotion as well, through that, it's just an amazing way to communicate. So yes, they don't wear masks.
They don't wear masks.
No. And they're
So-
on our planet, so why aren't they obeying the rules?
Right.
Yes.
Maybe we need to have a T-shirt that says aliens don't wear masks. Just saying. Y'all, I don't like that word alien, though.
No,
I keep
no.
you saying that.
Intergalactics.
Intergalactics. Boy, that's
yeah.
going to take up a big part of the shirt. Intergalactics. That's going to be long.
Higher conscious
But-
beings.
Higher consciousness.
Yeah,
Or how about ETs? Can we use ETs?
ETs, yes, that's good.
short. But then, of course, Steven Spielberg's little ET comes. I loved that show
Yeah,
as
that
a
was a
kid. I
great
even
show.
had a little lunchbox.
Did you
Little
really?
thermos. Yeah, I did.
Well, the intergalactics have given us a lot of technology, and that technology is being hoarded and suppressed by the military-industrial complex. This is how they got the defense energy weapons. That type of energy could be used for peaceful purposes and not destructive purposes. And it's, to me, a crime against the world itself, because we wouldn't be tearing this planet apart for quote-unquote mineral-type resources. They've given us the ability to generate power without using coal, oil, nuclear. They've given us the ability to be able to travel, and they're suppressing all of this. And this is what my encounter, the beings that contacted me telepathically through ESP, they told me all this, that the technology is on this planet, that they have given it to us, that we are all one universal race. There are good, there are bad, there are the in-betweens. It's the same way in the humanity. The human race is the most feared by most all of the intergalactics because of how we have been programmed. We are the most dangerous to the entire cosmos.
Right. I actually saw that, made me remember a comic, little cartoon I saw the other day on the internet. It was these two little extraterrestrials, and they were flying by Earth, and they said, oh, look, they have nuclear weapons and all this. And then the other little ET said, oh, but they're just blowing each other up. We don't have anything to worry about. Well, it's kind of funny, but it's kind of not funny because it's true. We just fight among ourselves. We're just so violent that, you know, and I'm seeing it in social media right now. When people have a disagreement on their opinion, they just want to attack. And it's so sad because it's literally tearing this world apart. I know it's an election year. I know that's part of it. But my goodness, do we have to tear down everything that's good just to prove that you're right? And I think that's where the programming comes. We have been so programmed as humans to prove that we're right, to prove that we're an individual. It's almost like the material or the matter part of our existence is so important that it overshadows our spiritual part. You know, it doesn't have to be materialistic. In fact, if you take the materialistic part away from our existence and we only are the spiritual being, wow. That would be, and I'm not talking religion, I'm talking about spiritual. There's a big difference. Spiritual is universal consciousness. Spiritual is connected to other living beings. It's way different. It's not following something. It's being a part of something. It's a little different. But having that mindset versus I'm right, you're wrong. You know, vote this way, vote that way. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. I mean, that's the whole thing.
They're just opinions out there.
It's just opinions.
What is an opinion?
Dividing opinions.
My opinion is I don't want to wear the mask because of the information I've got. I've got friends, their opinion is they want to wear the mask.
Right.
And they've both got different reasons for doing that.
But have you been unfriended because of it? Because I have been.
No, I haven't. No.
Oh, I have been.
I do get some, what shall we say, aggressive replies sometimes.
I've had that, and I've had people unfriend me because I am so against masks and I'm so pro-freedom that they are mad.
Well, what's the definition of an opinion?
Well,
information without facts.
True.
Or
True.
information with the facts that you believe.
True. And again, we're going back to what is that information?
You know, this is why I'm open to both sides, because you can't be all right and all wrong.
No.
There must be a middle road somewhere where some of the information is correct. Or it's all correct. The whole information is false.
Right.
Well, it takes it to a whole new level then. So, and now because everything keeps being changed, misinformation, disinformation, we don't know what to believe. We're so confused now.
Everybody is completely confused.
But if you are an opinionated person, then you tell others that they're all wrong.
That they're all wrong.
Yes.
Just to prove that you're right.
Exactly. But
yeah. And I think that's part of the problem right now, actually.
Yes.
Everyone's
I do find people that say a pro-mask always tell people that not wearing the mask to wear them, or they always voice their opinion, which is fine. They're entitled to do that. But people like us who don't want to wear the mask, we don't force it on others. It's up to you. If you want to wear the mask, you wear it.
Then go for it. If
it's
you
your
feel
choice.
comfortable, if you feel so comfortable wearing one, so be it. But please don't force the rest of us.
Don't tell me I'm selfish by not wearing it.
Yes, I'm not selfish by not wearing one. And I don't think that children who don't even have a voice should be forced into doing it because their cognitive development is so important and it's being squashed. I mean, that's actually scientific fact.
And there's enough
that's not
information out there about masks.
Right.
They did research in 2015 for the healthcare workers then to see what the benefits of wearing a mask was at work. And they found that it created more respiratory disorders within the healthcare workers.
Sure.
Because they were breathing out the bacteria and it wasn't going away. It was staying in the mask and breathing it back in again. And it developed, and there's an actual research topic about that. If you go out there and research it, it's there.
Well, and I think when you're forced to cover up and shut up, what you're actually doing is you're promoting depression. You're promoting a lot of negative thoughts about yourself. As a girl, I can speak firsthand. When I am told to cover up, then that means I'm not attractive. That's really what that translates to. There's a direct correlation there that you don't want to be seen because maybe you think you're ugly.
I've never thought about that. What do you do if you're younger, if you're 18, 19, 20, and you're looking for a partner, and you go around and you can't see any other faces?
No. Or if you're a 9-year-old, a little girl, and you're being forced to cover your face up so nobody sees it, what kind of message is that sending?
Well, yeah.
And so, again, I just think having a more universal approach and looking beyond this limited information that's being put out there by the media, and really stopping and looking at how you, as a parent, want your child to be raised. And, maybe you're a grandparent, maybe you're a grandparent
But
that's raising your kid.
you could say it on the other hand, thank you for all the people that are wearing masks for protecting me, because I'm not wearing one.
Well, possibly.
Or is that too deep?
Well, no, I don't think that's too deep. I've actually been asked that question before.
Have you really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have. And it's a thought-provoking one. I think that if that were the case, then, well, I think when you take your masks and you hold it up to the sunlight and you can see through it, then that really should say that the virus is going to pass through it.
I can see everybody going out now holding up to the light.
I mean,
oh, no, she's right.
I get your point. If you were wearing a military-type mask, Edgar, like you would wear, I would say, yes, that would be the case. So that's kind of like a double-edged sword. I mean, yeah, I think if it was that type of industrial mask, that would be true. But these people that are putting scarves and the panty liner looking masks and the homemade masks, are they really effective in the medical prevention of disease? I don't think so. Just take it outside and look at it through the sun. You can see holes, and stuff's going to go through it. So anyway, I don't know. I just think the intergalactics need to come and step in and stop all of this negativity and help us elevate ourselves to a higher level. And maybe that's why the three of us and other like-minded individuals that are on this higher level of thinking as far as the universe and our energy, maybe because we have raised our vibration, maybe that's why we're not being affected by it. Maybe that's why we're not buying into the pandemic. Maybe that's why we can see beyond it. I don't know. I don't have any basis to prove that, but I'm just wondering, because we don't just take it lying down. We're not on our knees and just accepting it. Well, I think it's what we've discussed.
It's that cognitive ability to get the information and then make an informed decision.
Correct.
Some people can't do that, unfortunately.
They have to be told what to think.
Yeah, and then they're happy and comfortable with that.
Well, that's a good point.
I've had some friends that have been in the military and are really good at what they do in the military, but when they come out, they've had difficulty in being comfortable outside of the military because they're used to being told what to do. They like the routine, they like the regime.
It's not just that, it's the camaraderie, it's also we watched each other's backs and we took care of each other. It wasn't so much, and when we got out into, and I'm speaking from being a 20-year career veteran myself, there's stuff I see out here that we had as a group. We could rely on each other. We got out. We feel like we were alienated because people, we were different, and it was because back when I went in 73, we were still trained to think on our own and be able to make rational decisions, and now the population saying, protect me from myself. And this isn't what we were in there for. We were to try to help keep freedom only people are throwing their freedoms away.
Right. And it goes right back to the UFO belief system. Until the
Exactly.
government slaps them across the face and says, yes, UFOs exist, which they actually have. September of 2019, the Pentagon did actually acknowledge the fact that there were otherworldly vehicles that they don't know where they came from. So they have admitted it. But until it's almost regurgitated over and over and over and over and over, do they really want to change their mindset about it? There's still the skeptics, there's still the naysayers, and it's almost like, my gosh, how much more do we have to say? How much more evidence do we have to prove? And you even spoke to that a little bit a few minutes ago.
Well, yeah, I just had a thought then from that. That friend of mine who for all his life didn't believe in UFOs, ETs or anything
Right.
until I asked them to show him a craft. The craft was shown. We spoke about it on a previous show. And from them it changed his whole perspective. He now believes that the UFOs are here. He believes the ETs. He does
Right.
his own research now.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's gone. It's just that one piece of information that we need.
Just
that
one
does
little
it.
missing piece of the puzzle.
Yes.
And when you experience it for yourself, like I have with many paranormal instances, I've had my own experiences, walk-ins and everything else. Until I experienced it, I'll be the one to tell you that it is hard to believe until you've actually walked in those shoes and you have felt it and seen it and been a witness to it. Which leads me to my ending, which I say every single week, and that is change what you know, you change where you go. So go out and find some research on your own. Don't just take our word for it, but actually start to look these things up. Until next week, I'm your host, Melisa Kennedy. Keep looking up.